Everybody, this is Mike Brennan here at the National Hurricane Center. It's 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday, August 5th, coming on with the latest on Tropical Storm Debby, which continues to move slowly inland across North Florida, currently as of 5 o'clock centered just to the southeast of Valdosta, Georgia, producing very heavy rainfall inland across portions of North Florida this afternoon. We have flash flood emergencies in effect for Suwannee County, the Lake City area, very dangerous flash flooding developing there. But you can also see that as Debby continues to move slowly northeastward, it's huge expanse of rainfall that's developed out in advance of the center, affecting coastal Georgia, coastal South Carolina, all the way up into southern and eastern portions of North Carolina. And the rainfall now is going to become the big story as Debby moves slowly northeastward and then eastward, meandering off the coast of South Carolina all the way through Thursday and even into Friday before it starts to move a little more quickly towards the north and a little more definitively inland. We are expecting Debby to maintain tropical storm strength. It could even re-strengthen a little bit offshore, but the big story is going to be the water hazards and the potential for record-setting rainfall and catastrophic flooding that's going to play out not just today or tomorrow, but through the rest of the week in portions of Georgia, South Carolina, even of North Carolina. So let's take first a look at the rainfall forecast. This is all the way out through Saturday. So several days of heavy rain here with the system meandering off the coast. These dark red and purple areas are 15 to 20 inch rainfall totals that extend from places like Savannah, Beaufort, Hilton Head, Charleston, up to Myrtle Beach, even up into southern North Carolina. We're expecting widespread 10 to 20 inch rainfall totals here with isolated amounts as high as 10 inches. Even down in this Florida, we could still see several more inches of rain. But the real story now is going to shift to Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina over the next several days. And if you look at the overall risk of flash flooding through the next 4 days, you see this area highlighted in pink from near Wilmington to Myrtle Beach, Charleston, Savannah, Florence, South Carolina, much of southeastern Georgia, and even into North Florida. This is a high risk of excessive rainfall, level 4 out of 4. This is the area we're most concerned about, where we could see widespread catastrophic flooding, the potential for significant loss of life, damage to property as those heavy rainfall totals play out over the next few days. There's also a risk extending farther north into North Carolina and farther west into South Carolina and Georgia. So we'll step through it each day. So from tonight through early Tuesday morning, the highest risk of flash flooding is going to extend across coastal Georgia to Savannah and to southern portions of South Carolina, the Beaufort, Hilton Head area. From Tuesday morning into Wednesday morning, the area that greatest risk is going to include much of coastal Georgia, now extending northward into Charleston to Myrtle Beach, all the way up to extreme southeastern North Carolina. Wednesday into Thursday, northeast South Carolina, extreme southern North Carolina. And then as we go from Thursday into Friday, we're going to see that risk, a moderate risk, level 3 out of 4, extend northward up into much of central North Carolina, the Raleigh area, into portions of south central Virginia. So again, each day that risk is going to slowly evolve, but you can see with the risk consolidated for several days across portions of coastal Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. That's where the greatest threat is. So we've had some questions about, so what does catastrophic flash flooding mean? So when you could see 15 to say 25 inches of rain, what are the kind of impacts you're going to see? Well, you're going to see widespread flooding of structures. Homes and businesses will be flooded. You're going to have to evacuate people. There may be rescues involved. And flooded roads are going to really hamper travel and your ability to move around. There could be widespread road closures of major roads like interstates, major highways. Your ability to move and access certain areas may be totally cut off. We could also see roads being eroded from underneath due to floodwaters. It could make it very dangerous to be out driving, especially at night. And then finally, you're going to see places flood that you've never seen flood before. And that's what is all in play with this type of rainfall. So if you're in those flash flood watch areas that extend from coastal Georgia up through coastal North Carolina, make sure you have multiple ways to receive emergency weather information through a NOAA weather radio, through wireless emergency alerts on your smartphone. Pay attention to any advice you're given by your local officials about evacuations or other precautionary measures. You're going to want to find a safe place to stay for the next several days to shelter in place away from these dangerous conditions. Moving on now to the wind threat. We have tropical storm warnings still in effect for much of northeastern Florida, including St. Augustine, Jacksonville, much of southeastern Georgia, Savannah, up to Charleston. We've now issued a tropical storm watch for the Myrtle Beach area and far southeastern North Carolina up to Cape Fear. We are still going to see tropical storm conditions ongoing in these areas in Florida and Georgia, and they're going to expand northeastward very slowly and continue for the next several days as the center of Debby meanders here off the coast of South Carolina. Now, tropical storm conditions are going to be even sort of amplified by the fact that we're going to have all this rainfall. It's going to soften the ground. It's going to make trees more susceptible to be taken down by these tropical storm force winds. That could result in power outages. So you're going to want to be careful and be prepared for the power to go out. Be careful doing things like running generators. You want to be safe and not become a statistic due to carbon monoxide poisoning. We'll talk a little bit about post-storm safety in just a minute. Now we'll move on to the storm surge threat. We have a storm surge warning in effect from the mouth of the St. Mary's River up to South Santee River, including Savannah and Charleston, and a storm surge watch north of that up to Cape Fear. In this area, we're expecting to see 2 to 4 feet of inundation above ground level from the ocean water moving onshore as that long duration flow associated with Debby piles the water onto the coast. So that storm surge in combination with the flooding from the heavy rainfall is going to make things really dangerous in places like Charleston, Savannah, Myrtle Beach, places where that heavy rainfall is not going to be able to drain out to the ocean because the ocean water is going to be backed up and cause even more flooding than you would get just from the heavy rainfall alone. So everybody in these areas, if you're in an evacuation zone, you've been asked to leave by your local officials, please follow that advice. Next, I want to touch on the tornado threat. We have a tornado watch in effect through this evening for places like Jacksonville, Savannah, Charleston along the immediate coast. There will be a threat for tornadoes overnight and into tomorrow in portions of Georgia and the Carolinas. So I want to wrap up with a few points here. Just hit the highlights again with Tropical Storm Debby. Don't pay too much attention to the wind speed itself. It's really the water and the rainfall that's going to be the big story from here on out. We have potentially historic rainfall amounts playing out across southeast Georgia and coastal South Carolina through Saturday morning that will likely result in areas of catastrophic flooding. We're going to see heavy rainfall resulting in considerable flooding impacts central and north Florida, central and northeast North Carolina through Saturday morning. Dangerous storm surge and tropical storm conditions will spread northward along the southeast coast in those tropical storm and storm surge watch and warning areas. And going back to the areas that experienced the landfall of Debby this morning, there's widespread power outages, dangerous conditions. We want people to be aware of that there may be down power lines, and you want to avoid those, avoid flooded areas, ensure you're using generators properly, avoid carbon monoxide poisoning, and use caution when you're cleaning up. We lose a lot of people to post-storm accidents, and it's also going to be hot. It's still the middle of summer in North Georgia, North Florida, South Georgia, so please be sure to drink plenty of water and avoid heat exhaustion, because with power outages, people aren't going to be able to get effectively into air conditioning. So just a couple of reminders, stay tuned to us here at the National Hurricane Center. Come back here to hurricanes.gov. We'll have updates throughout the night, throughout the week on Tropical Storm Debby and its impacts. You can find local information at your local National Weather Service office at weather.gov. We'll be back with additional updates throughout the event. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Brennan at the National Hurricane Center.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and consider subscribing for more unfiltered news from Mr. News. I'll see you in the next video.